What's up, guys? Swift here with my third free agent video of the offseason. I've covered defensive and offensive tackles already. Today we're looking at defensive ends. These are the edge rushers and the guys that get after quarterbacks. The Bears were awful at getting to the QB, so an upgrade is needed. Luckily, there are some guys out there who should be available in free agency, not to mention an awesome draft class at this position as well. There are a lot of guys who didn't make this free agent list, specifically veteran options, but overall it's a nice group of edge rushers. Let's get right into it. At number 10 is Justin Houston from the Ravens. Houston is the best of a variety of 30-plus-year-old edge rushers on the market. Other options include Jadeveon Clowney, Carlos Dunlap, Brandon Graham, Robert Quinn, and Jason Pierre-Paul. None of those other guys make my top 10. I focused on younger edge rushers and found there to be quite a few potential fits. Houston is the lone 30-year-old on the list as the most productive of the group of veterans. He barely makes my list, but it shows that there's more talent in this edge class than I initially thought. There isn't much top-end talent, but I'd be really happy if we could add any of the guys in the top 5. I don't have too much else to say about Justin Houston or the veterans, so let's get right on to number 9. At number 9, I have Dante Fowler from the Dallas Cowboys. Fowler was picked 3rd overall, just a few picks before Kevin White. He has 41 career sacks, including 11.5 in 2019, and he had 6 this season for the Cowboys. He's better suited as a rotational pass rusher, but he has natural ability to get after quarterback. He isn't a guy that would fix our need at defensive end, but he can help make the group better. At number 8 is another talented young pass rusher who hasn't quite lived up to expectations in Clelin Ferrell. He's coming from the Raiders. He was originally taken to replace Khalil Mack and never lived up to the hype. He does have potential, and he's only 25 years old. He's a guy I wouldn't mind seeing the Bears coaching staff get a chance to work with. He fits into Ryan Poles' low-risk, high-reward types and would have been a great fit last offseason. I imagine Ryan Poles takes less chances this offseason and he tries to add more sure things. Moving on to number 7 is Rasheem Green from the Houston Texans. He has 10 total sacks over the last 2 seasons, and he played very well to end this year. If he can continue his play from late in the season, he has the potential to land a starting job somewhere. Green is only 25 years old and a former 3rd-round pick. He's not a big name, but he is a good football player. At number 6, we have Shaq Lawson from the Buffalo Bills. He's another former 1st-round pick who's only 28 years old and never lived up to his nickname Sack Daddy. He's another good football player, though, who wouldn't fix the position, but would definitely help out. The defensive line needs multiple players and better play from everyone. Shaq Lawson is a guy that I think fans would really like, and he could even potentially be a starter. Okay, now we're going to get into the top 5. All 5 of these guys would most likely be starters for the Chicago Bears and require a bit more money than the guys I've mentioned so far. At number 5 is 49ers edge rusher Samson Ebukam. He's not a 10-sack guy, but he has continuously gotten better throughout his career. He's only 27 years old. He has good athleticism and has been about a 5-sack-a-year guy for one of the best defenses in the NFL. He's also not a liability in the run game and is overall a solid player. Ebukam doesn't get much hype, but I like him and I think he's a guy fans should keep an eye on this offseason. Next up on my list at number 4 is Ebukam's teammate, who also goes very underrated, playing on that talented 49ers defensive line, and that's Charles Omenihu. He's only 25 years old, and he had 4.5 sacks as a rotational defender this year. He's even better than Ebukam against the run, and he's a player that I'm very high on. If it wasn't for a potential suspension from an off-the-field incident, I might have him ranked even higher. Omenihu would instantly be the best player on our defensive line. The only worry is when you have a guy who was a rotational player and he becomes the best player on your line, you would need to add more talent around him as well. I do believe that will happen this offseason, though. I'm a big fan of bringing this guy in, And then when we get to my top 3 guys, all of them are full-time starters and would require even more money. These guys are all potential 10-sack-a-year players and have a bit more upside than everyone else on the list. As I said, there is some talent in this free agent class, but only 3 guys that I consider big-time free agents at defensive end. Those will be the next 3 guys I list. While it's not vital that we nab a top 3 guy, they would improve our pass rush and defensive line the most. At number 3, I have Colts edge rusher Yannick Ngakoue. He's 27 years old. He's a former Pro Bowler who has 19.5 combined sacks over the last 2 seasons. He hasn't found a home yet. He's played for 5 different teams in 8 years, but he has 65 career sacks and is in line for a big payday. I like Yannick, and I think he's worth the money, but I like the next 2 guys a bit more. At number 2, I have Saints defensive end Marcus Davenport. Davenport's been extremely consistent when it comes to getting sacks and has also never started more than 13 games in a season. A lot of people would be out on him already. However, he's only 26 years old, and he's easily the most talented pass rusher on the market. I watched his tape in college and early in his career with the Saints. This is a guy who can play all over the defensive line. He has the length, power, and ability to be a 10-sack-a-year guy easily. He's not my number 1 guy, but he is the most talented. I like Davenport a lot. He's a Pro Bowl talent if he can put it all together for the right team, but injuries and inconsistent production put him behind my number 1 target. That guy is Arden Key of the Jags. He's played on 4 different teams in his 5-year career, and also he's never had more than 6.5 sacks in a season. Some of you are already questioning why I have him at number 1. A couple of reasons here. First of all, being that Arden Key was playing his best football of his career down the stretch of the season for the Jags. He's gotten better and better and is starting to live up on the big-time hype that I saw from him at LSU. He was a consistent force off the edge for the final half of the season and through 2 playoff games. He's also very likely to hit free agency, as the Jags already have Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen at the position. And then Arden Key is only 26 years old. I scouted him during his time at LSU, and I think he has the potential to be a double-digit sack guy, and he's the most intriguing edge rusher in the 2023 free agent class, in my opinion. After spending a lot of time looking over this year's edge rush class, there are some potential options that excite me, but the position has nowhere near the talent that defensive tackle and offensive tackle have. Those were my first 2 free agent videos, and both those classes are pretty loaded. Edge rusher does have some talent, but it falls short from those other 2 positions. That being said, with the flexibility Ryan Poles has, combined with the talent that is available, I wouldn't rule out at least one of these guys being added to the team. I will add that with the special talent at both offensive tackle and defensive tackle, paired with this year's special talent in the NFL draft at the edge rusher position, and I think Ryan Poles' best course to improve this team would be going after tackles in free agency. That means signing an offensive tackle and a defensive tackle, possibly as his first 2 moves. Imagine if he grabs one of the top 3 offensive tackles. That would be Mike McGlinchey, Jawan Taylor, or Caleb McGarry, and then pairs that with either Deron Payne or Draymond Jones at defensive tackle, and that is the start to an incredible offseason. To me, that would plug our 2 biggest holes heading into free agency: 3-tech D tackle and right tackle on the offensive line. And then he could also bring in an edge rusher like Omenihu, Ebukam, or Dante Fowler, and this would allow Poles to grab some edge rushers in this year's deep draft class. We would still need a center via the draft or free agency. Don't worry, I still have a guard and center free agency preview coming as well. I will also do a big board of overall free agents and update the list next month as we head into free agency. Some players will definitely be re-signed or franchise tagged by then, so I'll be sure to keep you guys in the loop on that as well. Let me know who your favorite defensive ends were. This is a decent edge rush class, but I honestly like the draft class at edge rusher better than I do the free agency class, which means for me, I would lean towards attacking defensive tackle and offensive tackle as soon as free agency gets started, and then I'd worry about edge rusher in the second and third wave and see what guys are left. Thanks for listening, guys. Please remember to hit that like button for me. I have so much more coming, and until next time, bear down.